Welcome to Justice Now. So this is part 18 of the workplace mobbing series. And this is reflections upon the aftermath of leaving such a toxic situation from work and terminating my employment from that particular situation. And it had me reflect a lot about myself and some of the things that I could have done better, some of the things that I need to work on, as well as just also reflecting upon, the actions and motives of others and just how to deal with the aftermath. Because in my situation as a target of that hostile work environment, there's a lot of residual emotions that are left over. There's anger, there's frustration, there's sadness, there's loss, there's disappointment, and how to work through all those emotions and how not to have those emotions spill over into the next work environment, and how not to have it spill over to your remaining relationships that you have existing, such as with friends, with families, and even with yourself. Also, what I've really learned is the concept of forgiving oneself. So when I left, there was a sense of relief. When I left the hostile work environment, there was a sense of relief. There was a sense of a new beginning. My chest felt lighter. I could breathe in more deeply. The stress was decreased significantly. It's a new environment. I don't have to be going back into such a hostile situation. What I recognized about myself is that I'm a very strong person. I'm a very strong person that wants to see progress. And it was just very unfortunate that each time that I went into that hostile work environment, the progress wasn't there, and it was disappointing. And it wasn't the fact that I didn't want to see progress on my end. It's just that there were certain people that had their own agendas for their own reasons that wanted to participate in bringing down another person and bringing down the target. And I was the target at the time. I'm sure that there's other targets, and there's varying degrees of targets that they have lined up, because I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm not the first, and I'm not going to be the last, unfortunately. But that sense of loss, of that loss of stability, that sense of loss of expectations, the disappointment of the expectations not being met, what I envisioned a work environment would have been, and that leads to a grieving process, right? So I'm right now in the process of grieving. When I first started with that particular job at the hostile workplace, it was with the expectation that I would be treated with respect, that my accomplishments and my contributions would be acknowledged, and that there would be reciprocity in terms of respect as well. I was very supportive. I was expecting that I would get support in return, and unfortunately that didn't occur. And you see, in trying to explain this, you know, I often get the explanation of, well, not everybody's going to like you, and it's a rather naive way to think about a workplace. And I would have a different perception on that. I believe that it's healthy to have a set of expectations of being treated with respect, and reciprocity. When you give support, you're expecting to give support or get support at the same time. When you provide resources, you're expected to not be blocked from other resources. And I mean, whatever their agenda was very skewed. I find it was very odd considering that they didn't really know me. And, the fact that, when you're at the workplace, you're not expected to have people know everything about you. I mean, they're not family. They're people that you work with, right? They're not family. So there shouldn't be this expectation that they need to know your family dynamics. They need to know all your friends. They need to know everywhere that you've been. I think that's rather intrusive, but I digress. As I mentioned, it's a grieving process because those expectations have not been met. Um, it's it's angering because basically there's assault. I mean, threats of job loss, threats of social isolation, threats of being blocked, and then having those things actually occur where promotions were being blocked, where you are being isolated, um, where your name is and your reputation is being torn to shreds by people who don't know you, by people that obviously have issues and need to manage their emotions. Um, so yes, I mean, for targets, I would highly suggest to take some time to grieve and to process. So now being outside of that situation, I was able to re-examine over my life as to some of the things that I need to work on. I know that for myself, I'm a striver. I'm a high achiever. And I put that pressure on myself because of the things that I've gone through in my past. Um, when I was in grade 6, I had a teacher that used to stalk me. He literally used to stalk me down the hallways when I was on the playground. He used to stalk on the playground. And he would make continuous sexual advances against me. So, just to give you insight, one of the things that I would do is I would seek safety in the classroom. So if I'm walking down the hallway, need to go to the washroom, he would be there. He would appear. And then as I'm walking quickly, he would grab my wrists. He would always make sure that no one's around. He would grab my wrist. He would put me up against the locker. And he would be coming towards me and he'll be like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And it was just very, very weird. One time in the gym, when no one was there, he started rubbing my arm, and I was able to get away. But I sought refuge in the classroom because that was the only place that he would not be able to do this. I sought refuge around people because that was, again, the only place I would be safe until I finally left the school. In that process, I would be chastised by this teacher, and my self-esteem would become really low. So one of the things that I would do and pride myself on is at least I can strive for good marks. And that's when the striving begun, in which I would constantly study and work hard and, make sure that I didn't get anything less than an A, to show myself that I'm good enough. And I realized that from that experience that has passed on all throughout my work experience, striving to be the best, because deep down I felt shame from what this teacher was doing, and deep down I felt I wasn't good enough. And this situation really helped me to really delve into looking at realizing that I am good enough. I had to stand up against people that I did not know, who in their own way were violating me because they deemed me as a target. They felt that I was less than and not good enough. And I found that I had to find that courage to stand up for myself and say, I'm not going to take it anymore. And now out of it, forgiving myself for not seeing it sooner, forgiving myself, like trying to get rid of that shame that is not of my own. That shame really is the perpetrator's shame, and those who supported the perpetrator, their shame they tried to place on me. That's the whole purpose of scapegoating. And it's I'm really trying to get this out, but I'm just having difficulty finding the words, so bear with me on this. Just trying to say that it's okay. You're not meant to know everything that's going to happen to you. The decisions that you make were made based on the information that you had at the time, and that when you reflect, I know sometimes for myself I'll say, well, I should have done this, I should have said that, I should have gone to HR sooner, I should have documented sooner, I should have done. Sure, there is the woulda, shoulda, couldas, but at the time you did the best that you could, and learning to forgive yourself, and actually, rather than beating yourself up over something that you obviously wouldn't have known, because you're not in the demented minds of these perpetrators and their supporters, actually commend yourself for pulling through the way that you could, and that it's an opportunity to learn more on how to protect yourself in those types of situations. So that's a takeaway, a lesson learned, because we're all a work in progress, right? So the other aspect of it is, seeking understanding for yourself, getting more education around, this topic, not necessarily to learn about the perpetrators. I mean, you'll no matter how much information you read about them, you're never going to really fully understand them, because both of you are just cut from different perspectives. And I'm going to do a part 2 to this, because it's going to be a little bit longer than I anticipated. So I'll see you in part 2.